Hello, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to another show of the Poetry of Painting. So, goodness, already the second show in January. Time's flying by already this year, which is a bit scary, but there we are. So, this week I'm being joined on the show all the way from Australia by Reese North. So, let me just bring Reese onto the screen a minute. Here we go. Hi, Reese. How are you?
Hi there. Yep.
How are you doing? You okay?
Yeah. Hear me okay? Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you. Yes, you had a few little technical hitches, but we've got you now. That's the main thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, welcome to the show. Great to have
Thank
you
you.
on.
Mm.
As it is great to have everybody on who's watching and watching on live or on replay. Thank you very much. And please, if you'd like to make comments or ask questions, please do. That would be absolutely lovely. So, here we are. We are talking poetry and painting again. And this week, we're actually talking about painting behind me here on my right, which looks a little bit yellow in this light, unfortunately, but I couldn't get my lighting very good tonight. So I'm going to share that on the screen for you when you'll see the more like the correct colours of it. And Reese has done me the honour this week of writing a wonderful poem about this painting. So, Reese, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you came to write the poem? And oh, Chris is saying, "Hi, Fiona. Good to be with you again. Good day, Reese." He's saying that's his Australian bit there. So, Reese, yeah, would you like to just tell us anything about how you wrote this poem in the first place? Just a bit of background, or you can do that after you've read the poem, if that would be easier, whichever you prefer.
um. Yeah. Well, with this one, it was more difficult than the others because the others were direct contact with nature,
Hmm.
which with becoming water. I think I did the one about high plains autumn,
Yes, yes.
and the other one was peace and quiet.
Hmm.
Yeah. They were quite. I didn't find them too hard to enter at all. But this one, because it's somewhere I've never been before in my life, and I had to do a bit of research actually. So I read up on it, and then I just once I got a good idea of the history, the background of Venice, which we've always known about in movies and magazines and whatnot, but I've
Yes.
really known nothing about Venice in any other way. Yeah, so once I got that, I just gazed into the painting and found my way in. I started like particularly the reflection, and this time I didn't put my own title. I just used the title of the painting. Normally, I include that in the epigraph under it when I acknowledged what inspired me. But this time, I did Venice Reflections, and I used the reflections to reflect. I was particularly on the history of Venice, what I knew about it, and then I just worked it from there forwards. And
Excellent.
yeah, found my
Well,
way through it.
that's one thing that you've got to put right, Reese, is you need a trip to Venice. It's
Yes,
amazing. It's a
yeah,
wonderful place to visit. It really is. I've been there a couple of times, and each time you find new things, and not just the touristy bits, but little back alleys and little bits that, are just where the people actually live, and tourists don't normally go and find them. But of course, being there on a painting trip, you're looking for all these different little places, and you try to find these out of the way bits. But if you're a
mm,
tourist as well, it's just got some wonderful places to see, and the character there is amazing. So you
mm.
need to put that right. So would you like to read your poem for us now?
Yeah. Well, with this one, unfortunately, I found out the future of Venice isn't too bright because
Mm.
the way the tourist trade is flooding in and driving a lot of the families out now. They can't afford to live there because rents are so high, and the
Mm.
water is rising. They reckon by about 2100, it could be right under the water. So that's all part of the poem.
Mm.
Okay, so I'll do it. Venice Reflections, inspired by the painting by Fiona Hooter. Hooper, sorry. Hooter. Sorry about that.
No problem.
um, yeah, excuse me. Venice, serene Venice. I look down at the sky. at the rippling walls of your buildings, reflected in a cool canal, where marbled palaces, bell towers and domes float on petrified wood to form an island city shaped like a fish, cupped in the hands of a shallow lagoon. Venice, blue Venice, what intrigues are hidden below your surface? What cruel ghosts between your walls? Lord Byron wrote about you. He foresaw the end of your dreams, when marble walls crumble and sink, and nations mourn your sunken halls after the sweeping sea swallows you whole. Venice, dark Venice, I see life refracted in the wanderer who crosses the bridge between worlds. But sadly, the flood of strangers who follow drive families back to the mainland they once fled. Byron's flood has begun, and one day all that will remain of you, sweet Venice, will be paintings and poems, sad reflections of a city that once rose from the sea.
Wow, that's powerful stuff, Reese. That's really good. It's sad that that is the reality, that these places are around coasts around the world. With sea levels rising, there is a distinct danger of these places sinking below the water, and eventually, as you say, maybe even out of sight. But mind you, if the water rises that much, most of us will be in a lot of trouble anyway, wouldn't we? So, well, the people that are still here by then, I think maybe you and I might not be around to see that possibly, but yeah, it is a scary thought, and it's even more reason, when you think about things like this, not just the flood of tourists forcing out locals and things, but the actual environmental issues. It's even more reason to do everything that we can at the moment to try and stop the progress of climate change, or hopefully even to reverse it. But it's a very bad situation, and without everybody trying to do their bit, I don't know how much chance we've got of stopping it, to be honest. So
yeah, that's why I chose. I don't know much about the artistic levels that so I didn't really focus on that because it wasn't something I felt I could competently talk about. But climate change and what we're going to lose as a consequence, and what I understand of Venice, it's just a wonderful cultural icon, really, isn't it? It's one of the
absolutely.
How many wonders of the world have we got now? Certainly beyond 7 from when I was young. And that place to me would be one of the many wonders of the world. On one of those lists, that need to be preserved and saved. So I just put that into the poem because I think that's something that really needs attention, and hopefully the powers that be wake up to the fact that they're going to lose out as well. If they're just going to concentrate on how much money they can make out of everything each day, they're not going to see a future for the humankind and the culture that should be passed on, not allowed to be washed away like that. That's no doubt they'll all come in and seize all the great art pieces and put them in a museum somewhere. And then make their money that way, but unless they focus on the real issues, we're all going to suffer,
Absolutely, yes.
So I thought your painting could stand in a way as holding that up. That's why I put that into the poem. I just sort of it's not a bad thing to reflect on in Venice Reflections. Yeah.
Absolutely. Chris, by the way, said great poems, some great phrases. So he really enjoyed it, as did I. I mean, it's a lovely poem, and it seems very sad that maybe all that will be left one day will be the paintings and the photographs and videos of the place, rather than the actual place itself. But this particular one I didn't paint actually in Venice, because it's a reasonable size, and traveling on aircraft with large wet oil paintings not necessarily a good idea. So this one I did from sketches and photographs back in the studio here, and really enjoyed painting it because it brought back all the memories of the trip, you know, and the, you know, the actual feeling of being there with the sights and sounds and smells, which at that time of year when I went, the smells were fine. There was, you know, it can get smelly in Venice at times because the, you know, it's not washed, you know, the tide doesn't sort of wash it clean each time it comes in and out, sort of thing. But
right.
But it was very nice. It wasn't smelly and it was lovely, and just we had really fantastic weather for the time of year, and it was beautiful. So, but yes, it's facing an uncertain future, let's say, at the least. So, oh, hi, Ritesh. Welcome to the show. Good to have you on board. Thank you.
What amazed me was, you know, the foresight that Lord Byron foresaw, you know, back in his time. I forget what time was it, late 17th century, I think it was, early 18th. Byron, it was I didn't look at that actually. It was around that time. Same time as Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, because they were quite good friends.
Yes.
You say, yeah, they were very good friends.
So 1800s then?
Yeah, it would have been definitely 1800s. I forgot to look at that. I didn't. Yeah, I did look at it, but I can't pull it to mind. Yeah, so very impressed by his foresight, because it touches very strongly on that. In fact, a couple of the phrases I pulled together were from reading his poem.
Yes.
He was, you know, he foresaw the sea just coming in and taking it away and rising. Yeah. Apparently,
another Atlantis.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. Yeah, and apparently they've predicted about 2100. It could be well under the waves by then if things keep going the way they are now.
Gosh.
So, you know,
and I mean, they do get floods there, obviously, with high tides. And you know, there are areas that, you know, people have sandbags around their doors, and often the lower level of the buildings are not the living quarters, you know, they're first and above floors. And you know, like the square, they've got boardwalks around so that people can still walk around, but they're you know, they're a good 3 foot or more above, you know, the surface of the streets and paths and that. And you know, it needs them, because otherwise you can't move around, because it's just submerged even at high tides at the moment, let alone going forwards with rising sea levels. So yeah, not quite sure what we can do about that, but
well, we've got massive floods over here at the moment, like we've never seen before. Yes, wiped up in Western Australia there, which is desert. You know, it's totally flooded out. Whole communities of you know, they've never seen water like this before ever in the known history. You know,
we've even seen that in the news here as well. So you know, it must be severe. Goodness.
It's amazing. And all over this state here, New South Wales, everywhere actually. Never seen floods like it, you know.
Yeah, hopefully you're not affected, Reese.
Oh, no, I live up on top of a mountain, basically. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. But the city below could go under. I know it's had a tsunami through here before, a few hundred years ago. Yeah.
Yes.
It does happen. Yeah.
Gosh.
Because we've had an earthquake through Newcastle a number of times. We had a really bad one back in 1989. Cost quite a few lives, a number of lives actually. Yeah.
Goodness. Yeah, it is worrying that things are becoming more and more extreme, isn't it? As well, you know, with over here we've had a few weeks. It feels like months, in fact, of rain, just almost every day, rain.
Yeah,
probably hasn't been every day, and maybe it wasn't months. It just feels like that though, because it has been so very wet. And it's, apart from a week or so back in December when it was really quite cold, it's not that cold. You know, it's winter, it's supposed to be cold, and it's not really that cold at the moment. You know, apart from that one really cold snap, you know, things are changing. You know, in November, I had rhododendrons starting to grow again and coming to flower in the garden. They should be flowering early May,
Mm.
and they was actually starting to produce new leaves and flower buds.
Mm.
You think, no, that's not really quite right, you
Mm.
know.
So,
So
same in the gardens here all around me. The same thing's happening. Plus, we've never had such cool summers in my area, at least. It's usually it's
yeah,
very, very hot. It's really unbearably hot. But this is the third summer in a row. It's been really pleasant. I mean,
right,
I thought that maybe this, with climate change, like most Australia's a very large desert, mostly desert in the centre, is if the reverse couldn't happen, that like one day that'll be a very habitable, fertile area, and we'll be a
yes,
much cooler country, and in the more oasis areas they'll become deserts. I mean, that's usually what happens, and the population starts shifting to the more fertile areas. It'll be a big population shift all
yes,
around the world.
yes,
If you trace back natural climate changes without human interference, you will find that's quite common. Yeah.
yes. Ritesh says it's just dark, wet, dark, and gloomy. I know, Ritesh, it is, as you say, very depressing weather in his
Yeah.
opinion, and I agree. It just,
Where is
where are
he?
the lovely frosty mornings to get
Yeah.
out into the lovely crisp, fresh air and,
Mm,
crunch across some dried leaves, and, we just don't seem to have had that this autumn,
mm.
winter. It's just been damp and dismal, like
Yeah.
Ritesh says.
Yeah.
So
Is
yeah,
Rotatious in England, I take it?
yes,
Oh, right.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not that far off from us. He's in the south of England as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Um, but over here, of course, we've had over the last several years, we've had unseasonably hot summers for
Mm.
us.
Yeah, I
Getting
heard.
hot.
I heard there was a heat wave over there
Yes,
just recently. Yeah.
yes. With this summer, summer just gone, 2022, we had the hottest summer day on record in the
Mm,
UK, and
mm, mm,
wildfires come starting up, which is very unusual for the UK. We're not used to
mm.
that sort of thing. When you've got hot deserts, and in Australia it's more normal. But and you had some awful fires. Was it the year
Oh,
before
yeah,
last?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
It was like drought. We had drought
during
for
lockdown.
much longer than normal, and then the
Yes.
fires hit, and we've never seen bushfires like that ever. They're just
Mm.
right across the continent, but they don't follow the old Aboriginal burning off. They knew how to get rid of all the underbrush. And there's all
Right.
sorts of conflicts with the green movement not allowing burning off and all this sort of stuff. And as a
Yeah.
consequence, this is where the green movement can actually, which I think is a great movement, but every now and then they get it wrong, where that
Yes.
burning off needed doing. And
Yes.
it wasn't done. And consequently, the bushfires were very extreme. But even so, they were more extreme than very extreme, if you know what I mean. Oh,
Mm.
that
Yes.
rhymes. So,
Yeah.
yeah, terrible bushfires, unbelievable. The
And there
smoke
are.
that came through here was like I get a bit of asthma, and I found breathing quite difficult with the smoke. It was just
Mm.
coming here from the interior. It was blowing out to all the coastal areas.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. And there are plants as well that need fires to rejuvenate them at times as well, and for their
yeah,
seeds
yeah.
to be able to germinate, aren't there?
That's
So,
right. That's
it
right.
is a natural thing. It's
Mm,
just when
mm.
we interfere in the natural cycle, it can really mess things up, because
Yeah.
if you say as if they, burnt out all the scrubby brush underneath, then
Mm.
they wouldn't have been so severe, would they? So,
No. What's
yeah,
very interesting now is they're starting to listen to First Nation people because they're
good.
coming forward saying, "Look, we told you about this. This was going to happen, and it has, and we've been repeatedly saying it because in their what they call their song lines is the way they sing. They go around on their walkabout and sing to the land, telling the whole because they're traditionally oral culture. They
Yes.
sing the story to the land to all the young boys, go this way, the girls go that way, and they tell them how to look after that particular area. Sometimes you've got to burn it off. There's seeds in there that need fire if you're going to
Mm.
regenerate it, and they go through the land that way. And they've got all that knowledge going back 60,000 years now. They've been living
Yes.
here and are carrying that. And nobody's been listening. The European cultures haven't been listening to them. But now that's starting to improve. The relationship is starting to improve. I don't know how much so, but hopefully. And
Good,
that
good.
could become very much another new part of Australian culture. We start listening to that sort of stuff.
Yes, yes.
But
As you
yeah,
say, they've been doing it for so long that they do have some good knowledge about how to manage the land. So,
oh, definitely a
whereas,
lot of knowledge. Yeah.
yes, Westerners coming in not used to the landscape, the climate, the droughts and whatever, we don't have that knowledge. We think we know everything, being Westerners and whatever,
Yeah.
but we don't. We
No, of
don't.
course not.
So yeah. Oh, well, let's hope that they do listen to them and manage to be able to stop the fires being so bad in future. But it's other things as well, like floods happening. Certainly in this country, I think floods are getting more common. But often when it's like a flash flood, it's because we've paved over so much land and we've removed so many trees.
Yeah.
When you've got grassland or gardens, and when you've got trees, when you get heavy rain, the water can soak in and it doesn't all suddenly rush off and flood places. And
Yeah.
trees are great ones for helping to stop flooding. That they'll absorb so much water. But because we've changed the landscape, we've
Yep.
made things that much worse when it does happen. So
exactly. Now, isn't
yeah,
this interesting? What Venice Reflections has triggered off?
absolutely,
So it's
absolutely.
just by taking the poem in that direction. It's because
Yes.
there's so many ways I could have approached this, but I've gone a sort of climate change way, and now that like, because how sad it would be if there's just paintings and poems left and all
Yes.
that's gone, and we could
Yes.
have prevented it. So
Absolutely.
a very
It's
important painting, Fiona.
well,
Very important painting.
hopefully one day. So, but it is still here if anybody would like to purchase a very important painting, of
Yeah.
course. So,
And put the
but
poem to it.
absolutely with poetry. So,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
if anybody's looking carefully, I'll just put the painting back on the screen. There is, for
Yeah,
little dog lovers out there, there's a person on the bridge
that's a
with
guy.
their little dog as well, just on the bridge there, walking their little dog around the bridges of Venice.
That's
Yes.
a fellow who I said, refracted, walking across the bridge,
Yeah.
between. I did have it between islands, but I put between worlds because I think
Yes.
each island has got quite a different. Is that correct? I read that they're quite all that little bit different as you cross
Yeah.
from one
Well,
island to another. Yeah.
there's the main bit of Venice, which has, it's bisected by the Grand Canal, and it's got, lots of canals sort of dissecting it around. But then there's also some other islands as well, which are different. And the names have just gone completely out of my head right now. Oh, Chris says, is that a Cleekai, referring to the little dog on the bridge? I think it could be, Chris, absolutely. But yes, they are quite different, and you can get a ferry across from the main Venice island through to the others.
Right.
My
And
brain has died tonight, Reese. I'm
that's
sorry,
okay.
but
I was just going to say another interesting piece of history I picked up is they'd been self-governing right up till about the time of the French Revolution, and then Napoleon, when he came in through Italy, I think seized. I think that was the end of self-governing around Napoleon's time, and he
right.
changed laws in Venice because they were before that they buried their dead on each island, where people live. But he stopped all that, and he put it only on the island of San Michel. Would the
Right,
bodies be allowed to
yes.
be buried? The island of the dead, they call it. And they had to
Yes.
be buried there for 12 years, and if people wanted to, they could get the bones, but they had to be burnt and then taken back to the island of origin into
Right.
there. That way they'd stop the huge amount of cemeteries taking up all that room. I suppose it was a very practical approach by Napoleon there.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah.
Yeah.
So I found that very
Mm.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can
So
imagine all the stories that came from the Isle of San Michel, the Isle of the Dead, the horror stories that
yes,
probably came out of it, spooky ones. Yeah.
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I've just remembered one of the names is because you've got the glass on Murano,
Mm.
and the glass blowing over there, which I didn't get to see, but it's some of the glass they produce is
Mm.
absolutely
Mm.
beautiful, and you know that it's obviously on sale on the main
Yeah. Yeah.
islands as well, so you can see it a lot in the shops there, which is lovely. So
The rulers really contained the glass blowers too, because they were the ones who could make lenses, and which of course were used for glasses and
mm,
telescopes. I'm not sure how much Galileo. No, he was earlier Galileo, putting together his telescope,
yeah,
which was about 20 or 30 times stronger than the previous ones. But the glass
wow,
blowers, I don't think that. I know in other areas they weren't allowed to leave the cities under threat of death because they were so important to the
wow,
existing culture. I'm not sure how that panned out for Venice, but I imagine there were all sorts of laws around the glass blowers and the
yes,
polishers back then. So whole history
yes,
behind that.
yeah.
Very interesting stuff. Yeah.
Wow. But if you do get to go to Venice, Reese, do take a
Mm.
ferry to one of the other islands at least, because you also get a different view of Venice because you get a view of it across the lagoon rather than
Yeah. Right.
from within
Right.
it. So
Mm.
it's worth it for that as well.
Mm.
We went over to one of the islands, and on the ferry back, it was starting to get towards evening, and getting a
Mm.
sunset behind the city
Mm.
was just absolutely beautiful. So
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
worth a trip. So
Yeah.
yeah.
On average, that's why I said shallow
Mm,
lagoon. It used to be deep. It's only about 16 foot deep on average, and which
yeah.
really quite surprised me.
Yeah.
And that's hence. I think it was just after the collapse of the Roman Empire. I think it was a big family, the Lombardis or something, fled there to escape enemies and whatnot because there was a natural moat. There's like 118 islands in that lagoon, and they began to build it up from there. They started sinking foundations, but it was all old petrified wood, which is very strong, stony. Wouldn't be weathered
Yes.
away, I imagine, by the waters. They sunk
Mm.
those foundations in, and then built logging on top of that, and then rocks, no doubt allowing for weathering and whatnot. So obviously, there's strong foundations, and
Wow.
built it up from that. Just amazing.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm so pleased you did your research, Reese, because you've
yeah, yeah.
enlightened us on lots of things tonight, which is absolutely
Well,
fantastic.
it's a
It's
fascinating
lovely.
painting. I found my way into your painting that way, and
Yeah.
yeah, it
Good.
was very interesting. So in such a poem's a short thing, I could only focus on a particular
Mm.
issues around it, and so yeah, I went that
Yeah.
way. So yeah,
Brilliant. Brilliant.
that's great painting. I love it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Lovely. Thank
If I
you.
was richer, I would buy
Maybe one day. You never
it. Yeah,
know.
you
Never
never
say
know.
never.
Again.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Chris says a very fascinating poem. So another thumbs up there from Chris,
Oh,
Reese.
thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you.
Yeah, that's
So
great. Yeah, appreciate
we're,
that.
we're getting towards the end of our time, Reese. It's flown
Mm,
again. So just leaves me to say thank you so much for coming on the show again, for
mm,
writing such a wonderful poem about my painting, and all the research you did as well. And
mm, mm.
providing us with so many interesting facts and information about Venice, which is lovely. So
Well, thanks for
you,
that good trigger point. Such an
yeah,
interesting painting
and,
to have aroused that in me.
yeah.
And
And well,
I
you'll be
may,
well. Sorry, I was going to say
I
you'll be
was
well
going to,
set up for when you get to Venice. You'll know all about it as well.
yeah,
So
yeah, definitely. I've and next time when we have it next time, now I understand where the problem was getting in. Got it. That's much
right,
easier. That's yeah,
good, excellent.
that's
Got you
great.
sorted in the end. You were there
Yes,
in the end on time.
what a
So
struggle.
thanks again, Reese. It's been great to have you on. And
Mm,
thanks everybody for
wonderful.
watching. Thanks for making comments, and have a wonderful evening, afternoon, morning, whatever it is, wherever you are in the world. So thank you to everybody, and look forward to seeing you all again next week. Take
Yeah.
care, everyone. Bye bye for now. Bye bye, Reese.
See ya.
Bye. Bye.